Let's talk some Oregon Ducks recruiting. Dan Lanning is jumping headfirst into the transfer portal. They're wasting no time looking at some key players at position of need. And in this video, I got Max Torres from Scoop Duck. We're going to talk about some of the early targets that the Ducks are zeroing in on. But first, Duck fans, do me a favor. Smash that subscribe button. We are talking Oregon recruiting, whether it's high school, whether it's transfer portal. It's going down right here, so jump on board and hit subscribe for me, please. All right, let's bring in Max Torres from Scoop Duck. And we already know that the Ducks are focusing in at a couple players. We're going to hit on two that have visits scheduled. Per the great Steve Wiltfong, Dylan Thieneman of Purdue is one of the best safeties on the market, and he's going to be in probably within the next week. What is it about him? How does he fit in, and why are the Ducks so zeroed in on him right now?
With Dylan Thieneman, I think this is a safety that can do a little bit of everything. Certainly brings that physical brand of football that you look for in any safety. But I think what the Ducks really want in their secondary next year, particularly at that safety spot, is a safety who can cover. So being able to target a guy like that in the transfer portal is going to be of the utmost importance. And I think what also makes this situation special for Oregon and the former Purdue safety is that he's only a sophomore. So I think this is someone who could potentially be with your defense for multiple years. I think that Oregon has probably been dipping into the portal a little bit more than they'd like for safeties in the past couple of years. So you maybe are looking again at the portal for some guys to come in, but this is a multi-year guy, so can help you string together a little bit more continuity at a really important position. So we know that Oregon's always in contention for top talent, and that looks like it's going to be the case again in this transfer cycle.
All right. Now there's another big defensive lineman that's back in the portal. That's Bear Alexander. He's leaving USC this time, and he announced with Hayes Fawcett of On3 that Oregon is in his top three. So why does Bear Alexander make sense for the Ducks right now?
I think Bear Alexander makes sense for Oregon because he's entering such an important year in his own career, and there's a little bit of a need for Oregon at defensive line. They have Jabari Caldwell and Derek Harmon. Caldwell doesn't have any more eligibility, but Harmon could come back for a year if he wants. I don't think that's likely with the kind of season that he's having, Josh. But for a guy like Bear Alexander, he's been at a couple different spots, but has shown a tremendous amount of potential. And if you're looking at someone like Jordan Birch, who was another highly touted recruit that wasn't necessarily putting it all together at his last spot, South Carolina, what does he do? He flies out west to play for Dan Lanning and Tosh Lapoy, Tony Tuioti, and now he's one of the best defensive linemen in college football. So I think Bear Alexander probably sees that in Oregon and what he's able to do potentially in that defense. The Ducks need some reinforcements on the interior. So I think Bear Alexander is the guy that is an early name to watch here, and we'll see if they can make a move sooner rather than later when he gets out to Eugene for a visit.
All right. A really intriguing name that hit the portal yesterday was Nwaneri. A year ago at this time, he was a top 10 player in America, getting ready to early enroll at Mizzou. Step on campus now. A year later, he's in the transfer portal. So we know the Ducks were a finalist for him coming out of high school. Do you think that this is a name that Duck fans need to know? Do you think this is a name that Oregon will pursue?
I think that Nwaneri is a name to know, but I don't think I put him in that upper tier as far as someone I've heard a lot of traction with for Oregon or see Oregon as a likely destination at this point. Of course, Josh, we know how fluid transfer portal recruiting is, so I could be telling you a different story tomorrow, later down the line this week. You never know, but I don't think that Oregon is necessarily a school that's going to be prioritizing Nwaneri, especially with how they've recruited that position in past years, with how well their defensive line and outside linebackers have played this year, with a guy like Mateo Uyunglele, Tatum Tuioti coming back this next season. I don't think that that's a huge need for them. Keep in mind, they also have a former 5-star, highly touted recruit, Elijah Rushing, waiting in the wings, Blake Purchase there as well. So I think that Oregon could definitely kick the tires here, but I don't think they're going to make the biggest of pushes. I think they'd probably save those efforts for someone else.
All right. How about another Trojan? We already talked Bear Alexander, but there was news that Duce Robinson is going to hit the portal or already has hit the portal. Is there any, I know Duck fans, they're always watching these big USC departures. So is Duce Robinson one that's on the radar?
I don't think I would put him on the radar too much for Oregon at this point in time. Of course, he's a big name, one that Oregon was in the running for up until he ended up signing with the Trojans coming out of high school. But I think that his use and development has taken a little bit of a different route with him playing more of that receiver role versus a tight end role. And I think Oregon needs a true tight end, especially after missing out on a couple of coveted targets at the end of the 2025 cycle and Andrew Olesh and Lincoln Cure. So I think they're looking for more of that traditional inline blocker, someone more like a Patrick Herbert who's currently on the team, or even someone who can do a little bit of both, like Terrence Ferguson, who's been a mainstay of that Oregon offense. I think Duce Robinson maybe resembles a little bit more of a Kenyon Sadiq, who's more athletic and can be used in a lot of different ways. But I don't think that his play style is necessarily the biggest need that Oregon has right now in this transfer portal cycle.
All right, so portal going absolutely crazy. We're only 48 hours in. We know the Ducks are going to address some needs. They're going to get some players out of the portal. But what would you say are the biggest needs that you expect Oregon to address in the next, 2 to 3 weeks?
I think the biggest one would probably be offensive line right now, with right tackle Ajani Cornelius set to depart. And then Josh Connerly Jr. has solidified himself as one of the best tackles in America now. But Josh, he's only a junior, so he could come back for another year if he so chose to. But Oregon has to prepare for all possibilities, so I expect them to look for some help there. Particularly at tackle. You're also Marcus Harper, who is a guard for your team. He'll run out of eligibility. So offensive line is definitely one of those needs for Oregon. Defensive line, I think they take a guy or two. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Safety, of course. You'll see them address some needs in the secondary with all of their safeties that are playing big roles this year set to depart. Maybe a corner. I think they could go into the portal for one corner, a guy who has some more experience. But I think that's probably the rundown. You could also throw a running back potentially in that mix because we don't know what Jordan James is going to do after this season. So I know Oregon's kind of keeping their options open in that regard and keeping tabs on some of the top guys that are hitting that transfer portal. So that's kind of a super quick rundown. You could also say backer. I mean, there's a lot of needs kind of throughout the roster. It's just varying numbers, I guess would be the best way to put it.
All right. Well, Oregon is already getting very active. They're only going to get even more. So, Duck fans, talk to us. What do you think the biggest need is, and who is your most important target in the transfer portal? Let us know. Comment section below.